This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for therapy. If you are experiencing mental distress, please seek professional help.
We are all simple miracles.
Welcome to the Wellness Project Podcast. I am your host, Wilson. Each episode aims to bring mental health awareness through exploring psychoeducation, scholarly literature, professional interviews, and the personal stories of people's journey to mental wellness. So, with that said, let's get started.
So go line your pockets with anything gold. 'Cause what good is a conscience if it can't be sold? And we are all simple miracles.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Growing up, I was always just really rambunctious. I'll never forget. God bless one of my first grade teacher. Still to this day, God bless her. Every time I see her, she reminds me of how her and my mother wished my children the same type of children on me that I was, and
That you were,
yeah. So she always called me a social butterfly. I was never in my seat, and you know, as I got older, and I mean, I figured out, you know, where I needed to be and whatnot, but you know, something was always off. I wasn't really sure what, but I was very active. And I think that's what mostly just kind of kept me going. I mean, I twirled baton. I did a lot. I played sports. I was always very active. I had some childhood trauma in junior high, some in high school, puberty hit. There was a lot of depression, in junior high, in high school. Grades, they were okay. They could have been better. But by my junior year, like I had a focus and I wanted to be a nurse. And so I was very driven at that point, and I made honor roll.
Yeah.
Every year, every semester, or every quarter after that.
After that, isn't that interesting how like when you find your interest or a passion, it seems, you know, it just seems to kind of get your life on a better track, right?
Yeah. And so that was my junior and senior year, and but I started dating my now ex-husband. But my goal was, like I said, go off. I wanted to actually go to Case Western. So I was preparing my senior year. I applied, or I signed up for classes, chemistry and anatomy in the same year, and they're like, "Oh no, you can't do that." I'm like, "Yes, I can."
Oh boy.
They're like, "No, you can't. You don't have good enough grades to do that. Like, why would you do that?" Like, I'm like, I'll be fine. And I aced both classes.
Wow.
So turns out I'm really, really smart. I just didn't know really how to channel that
energy.
None of it. And so, of course, I've never been. I just got diagnosed when I was I will be 48 this year. I got diagnosed at 46.
What was that diagnosis?
Of ADHD.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
At 46.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Never in my life. So again, fast forward, then I had my kids. My son was diagnosed with ADHD when he was about 7. Going through the checklist, and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of me too. I mean, I never really fit in anywhere, but I fit in everywhere. And I was extroverted because of the work that I did.
Yeah.
I ended up not going to school for my nursing degree. It turns out that I had some codependent issues as well, which I didn't know until after my diagnosis as well.
So like codependency in regards to relationships?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real uncommon thing, if that makes sense, when it comes to people with ADHD. I've got the same diagnosis, and it was hard for me to sort of accept the fact that although I have a lot of relationships with people, they're like not all of them, but many of them are just on the surface.
Mhm.
And that's a real high indicator of ADHD. It's that we're, most of us, not all, but that we are social butterflies, but we do struggle with relationships and kind of connecting on a deeper, meaningful way. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it's either it's surface or it's deep diving.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm not good on small talk at all. But if you want to get talking about anything, you want to
topic that you're into,
you want to build, you want to, create, you want to talk about life and just, God
philosophy
and just, just, making the world better. Absolutely. Hey, I'm all in. Let's talk about it. But I had to get away from a lot of negative talk. And my whole life, I was around a lot of negative talk. In the industry I was in, I got into food and beverage because I didn't go to school. I ended up with my ex-husband and had my kids. And so I ended up going back to get my nursing degree when I was 30. Turns out I had my first big ADHD burnout, which I didn't know. I was diagnosed. I had some anxiety and they gave me some Zoloft and I'm like, no, I'm not taking that. No.
Once again, and not that it's exclusive to women, but many, many, many women get misdiagnosed with anxiety or depression and they get put on medications. When in the counseling world, you should have your therapist do what's called rule outs. And it's where they go through the criteria to diagnose you and they say, no, based off of this criteria, we are ruling out ADHD. We are ruling out post-traumatic stress. So it's just important, I think, for the listeners out there to ask your therapist if they're doing rule outs for you. So,
well, I got diagnosed. I actually suck out someone in the Westlake area because I knew what I was looking at. I did some deep diving myself. You
mean with like interviewing and like researching and that's awesome.
I had
Very
to. Good. Because I knew what I was talking about. I knew, like I said, I did go to school, for my nursing degree. I got all the way through, got to my last year of my clinicals. My daughter blew her knee. It was a whole, my son was ADHD at that time. It was a lot of sleeplessness. It was a lot, there was a lot going on.
And then you met your husband. You guys were sort of high school sweethearts.
Kind of.
Okay.
But by that point in time, we were divorced by that point in time. So I was 30.
In your 30s. Okay.
I was 30 by the time I got divorced. Yeah. So then raising the kids by myself and just, job. So after nursing school, then they wanted me to retake my last year of clinicals. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. But I couldn't, I had too much on my plate. And so I just finished out the degree. And that's when I got into marketing and advertising. So it's been about 15 years. But I love marketing and advertising, and so that's what I do now. And
cool.
I mean, I get out and I talk to people, and I get to create, and that's my forte.
Yeah.
I mean, I've loved food and beverage my whole life. I'm also able to create, and so it turns out I have a lot of talents.
Yeah. And sort of using that ADHD brain to have lots of different new, products coming through, different personalities, different marketing. I could definitely see that. But
it always came out as I was kind of all over the place. So my whole life I was just trying to find my purpose and trying to figure out what I was doing, because like I said, I've always been good at a lot of different things. And so I'm like, when I got to 2020, I lost my dad then. And then I hit menopause. I also had my last cycle in December that year. And so 2021 was just nothing but a spiral.
Yeah. How so? I mean,
so through the year then, 2021, I left a relationship. So that was hard. I moved back here to town. I was doing a lot of different things, running the walleye drop, just trying to find my place.
Gotcha.
Then I ended up starting a small business because I was spiraling and needed to do something for myself and was trying desperately to find my purpose because I didn't know what else to do. And I was just literally spiraling, but I didn't know why.
And just so I can stay on track. So you still hadn't received the diagnosis yet?
No.
Okay.
No. So I became hypervigilant.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's my burnout. It turns out that's my overwhelm is hypervigilance. But I can create really great things. Like, I've discovered that my cognitive function has nothing to do with my IQ.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
But so as 2021 progressed, I lost my word fluidity. I literally was on a hamster wheel in my head.
So you're just having like a lot of just random racing thoughts.
Yeah, I couldn't keep anything straight. What used to work, the coping skills I used to have, stopped working.
And you contribute some of this to menopause?
Oh, 100%. Well, it turns out that ADHD and menopause are affected by the same neurotransmitters. So as menopause set in and my hormones or my estrogen decreased, then it caused my brain to lack even more dopamine and being able to, or lacking the ability to then process the acetylcholine. So therefore I had no working memory. So you need working memory and executive functioning skills to create a full sentence.
Yeah.
You need dopamine to have executive functioning skills. You also need, it turns out that your serotonin is affected as well by the lack of estrogen, which caused me to have no emotional regulation also. So I was a walking basket case. I had social anxieties I never had before. I literally felt like a shell of myself all of 2021. I got out of my house, but it took everything I had to get out of my house. And people don't realize, just because I had a smile on my face doesn't mean that I was okay. And so I really am super empathetic to, when people are judgy, about people. Nobody knows what happens or what they're going through.
Absolutely.
And so here I am now, having come through all of that after I got through, 2021, that was a huge New Year's Eve. And 2022 or January, I was curled up in a ball. And I didn't work at all. I didn't come out of my house for 4 months, and I did the blood work. I thought there was something really, really wrong with me because I'd be in the shower. I was in the shower. So I started listening to podcasts and I listened to a lot of Andrew Huberman. I listened to Mel Robbins. I listened to Lewis Howes. I listened to ADHD for Smart-Ass Women.
Yeah. So, but at this time again, are you thinking this is just the stereotypical menopause, or is this depression, or what are you sort of labeling yourself as? Because this is all still before you found out, right? Or maybe you just didn't know, you said that your dad had passed.
I like I said, I started just deep diving on everything. And so that's when I discovered, like I said, I had ADHD, based on all the symptoms, everything that was going on with me. Again, like I said, I started listening to ADHD for Smart-Ass Women. And it turns out that every single one of her podcasts are an interview with another woman.
Oh, okay.
And I started seeing myself in these situations, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always been labeled as too much, but the thing is that ADHD is a misregulation of emotions. It's a misregulation of attention. It's not, there's so many things, we pay attention to everything.
Right.
So we don't know what to pay attention to.
Oh,
everything's a priority.
Yeah. Well, especially in the world today with technology and just everything coming at you. I don't know how anyone can stay focused.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I had to do, like I said, I had to seek out the right, so I did all the right things. Like I said, I started with the blood work, wanted to make sure there was nothing organically going on, or biologically. And so, and then started making the phone calls to psychiatrists and therapists and whatnot. And so I got the diagnosis of ADHD, would have been end of March.
Of 2022.
Yep, 2022.
Did you have any physicians skeptical or dismiss what you were saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My regular physician, yeah, they totally dismissed what I was saying.
What did they say?
So did my gynecologist. And I said, excuse me, I said, do you even know that ADHD and menopause are affected by the same neurotransmitters? They said, no. I gave them.
Wow.
I gave them the information.
Yeah, see, because
I educated them.
Yeah, and I think it's important for the listeners, particularly women, to realize and say, like, I can only speak from my perspective of like that stereotypical menopause. You're moody, you have heat or sensitive to temperature and this and that, but that it really could be something else too.
Well, no, it is.
Yeah,
100%.
which it was.
No, well, but 100%. And that's the thing is, women who have never even had signs of ADHD will have ADHD signs and symptoms. I mean, or challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, they become forgetful.
Going through menopause. Gotcha.
Because it affects the same neurotransmitters.
Yeah. So
what happened is it threw my ADHD into a severe state.
To where it actually came to light to where you could say, this makes sense.
This is what's going on. So my whole life, like I never heard myself. I was not self-aware. I didn't know that. So again, I started deep diving on myself and finding my strengths. So for the last 2 years, I've spent with therapists because it turns out that I had childhood trauma. I didn't process either. So I had unprocessed emotions, which also affect the same neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
And then, the codependency issues, so here I had this overwhelming need to people please. So I was taking on more than I was capable of handling, but I would always do it. Everything I ever took on, I did.
Yeah.
But I was a mad woman. I was going in 10 different directions all the time, my whole life. And now I don't have to. And it's nice. And so, like I said, for the last 2 years, I'm taking care of me and my body. It turns out that you have to feed your brain.
Yeah.
And so doing this cleanse that I'm doing, this is the second time through the cleanse, through a place here in town. And, it's more about just empowering yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is that people with ADHD and anybody, everyone, we all thrive on positivity, but the ADHD brain does specifically. I mean, so I have to concentrate on what those positivities are and run with that. And the book that I said, ADHD for Smart-Ass Women, I ended up doing an interview on her international podcast.
Really? Wow. So it almost came full circle for you to actually be a guest
on her podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on her podcast, 261.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is the host of that?
Tracy Atsuka.
Okay.
And yeah.
I just want to make sure that the listeners out there can take a listen to that.
ADHD for Smart-Ass Women. It really, honestly, that was, I found many things on ADHD. I mean, I listened to Jessica McCobb. She's great, but I didn't relate. I mean, I was a woman of a certain age. I mean, I wasn't young anymore. And so when I found Tracy, it was something that really resonated with me. And the fact that I knew I was smart, but I never was able to really apply any of it because I was applying it everywhere.
Yeah.
I was applying it, and I was never had any direction.
It was just sort of like on the surface, you know?
But I thought I had direction, but my direction was everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, now that my kids are older, now that, and it's just me. And so I'm taking that time to just deep dive on myself and yeah, so finding, like I said, my strengths and yeah.
I find that beautiful. I always love to hear those stories where, it doesn't matter what age. It's just something clicks. It's just like something opens up in your life and you sort of realize more or less something about yourself that you never knew. And then did you get like a flood of just emotions and past experiences when that kind of hit you? You might still be going through it. I don't know.
Oh, I am.
Right.
I am still going through it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lifelong journey. But when I first discovered, so by the time I got medicated in May. So it was still a fluctuation. Like I wasn't really, things kind of got regulated, I would say, by October. And I heard myself, I was drinking. I wasn't drinking like I used to. I used to self-medicate when I was younger, in my 30s and whatnot, and it was just to deal.
Just to give like your brain a break.
I had a lot of outside trauma
Oh,
as well.
Yeah.
Just being a single parent was not easy, and the people around me didn't make it easy either, and so that was how I dealt. And
but then
it's a lot of self-sabotaging, but again, things I didn't know. So here I was shaming myself for my shortcomings, not getting through school, not, just things. But of course, that's what women with ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD do. We beat ourselves up for, not following through or failing. And it's, you can't continue to do that to yourself. You have to find a way to love yourself.
Absolutely. To me, I think that's the most important relationship. And to your point earlier about like having empathy for people and not knowing really what they're going through, that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me to have lost all of my word fluidity, to have, I had no emotional regulation. I'm still completely time blind. I set alarms to eat. I set alarms to Google is my best friend.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can relate. There was a period in I think maybe my early 20s where I had to like literally set reminders to shower, like reminders to use the bathroom. I would just forget. It would be 2 days later and I'm like, oh my God, like I haven't peed in 2 days. That's like, how did I forget? I just get so wrapped up in, other things that I just would forget to do that. So I think that's a common thing within the ADHD community is setting reminders to do basic things or just to be organized. That's been a big struggle. There's a huge sense of, and I don't want to say this the wrong way, of being disorganized. It's just, you really have to find a system to organize yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I'm at a point for me now, it's not OCD-ish, let's say, but I have to have things in order to move on. Like my house has to be a certain way. And again, it's not like if I'm in a rush, people, that I can't just leave it. Like, it's not that bad, but I definitely prefer my book bag organized. I prefer my clothes put away. It's just something.
I make my bed every day. My dishes are like my home is very organized. Everything has a place because it makes my life easier. Then I don't have to think about, because if I don't have a charger where I know my charger's at, then I go off on a spree.
You're lost in that.
I go off on a tangent and I'm like, and then I don't get to what I really need to do.
Yep.
So for me to have myself and it's still for me a work in progress because, like I said, all the coping mechanisms, all the things that I had in place for myself before stopped working.
Yeah.
Once menopause set in, and they say, oh, well, you'll get through menopause. Don't worry. It's just, the anxiety and depression. It's like, you're never going to get through menopause because you're never going to get those hormones back. So your brain chemistry is forever changed.
Yeah.
The acetylcholine, and the thing is, and I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about medication or not, but
yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's your experience. Sure. It's your story.
So again, I actually wanted to be a nurse practitioner.
Mm.
When I didn't want to just be a nurse, I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. And like I said, I wanted to go to Case Western. And I can't lie, like I might still do it.
Hey, why the hell not? You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. Just the brain is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
I encourage everyone to be a lifelong student.
Absolutely. I learn all the time, every day, all day. And I'm so thankful for what I went through because it really made me do that.
Yeah.
Get there.
So.
Oh.
I think your purse is.
That would be my alarm.
There. Oh yeah.
I'm supposed to eat.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Talk about crazy timing.
1 o'clock. Yep. I'm supposed to eat. Stop.
We couldn't make that up even if we tried. That is spot on. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I listen, I totally get it. I do the exact same thing. I love having the voice reminder option on our phones now. I use it for everything. It's easy just to swipe it to move on, but if it's not there, it doesn't exist in my head. So
no, 100%. Yeah. If it's, out of mind or out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind.
And it's so much more true
It's
for
helpful.
somebody with ADHD.
Yeah.
That if it is out of sight, it is out of mind. It's like, when you say, oops, I forgot to do this, it's like, I really didn't mean to forget to do that.
Right.
It's like, I really, and so I make lists for myself, but then I found myself making too many lists. It's like, okay, what works? So
Yep.
I'm figuring, like I said, right now, last year was a lot more on just, I had to get my brain straight. So I dealt with the trauma, with the childhood trauma.
Like going through therapy?
Yep, going through therapy, dealt with the codependencies, got on the right medications. And like I said, so the research that I did, I'm actually on Vyvanse. I'm on 70 milligrams of, 60. 60 milligrams of Vyvanse. Tried 70, but I was just a little too, I would tense up. So
everybody's
went back down.
Body's different.
Yep, and that's what I mean. Everybody's different. But I'm on Wellbutrin, 150. And then I'm on Aricept.
Okay.
And Aricept is a dementia medication.
Really?
Yep.
So is that hopefully helping with the memory?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I have. Yeah. Well, I can create a whole sentence now.
Yeah.
I can create. I mean, I'm quick-witted again.
Yeah.
When you lose something,
you don't know how good it was to have it.
Yeah.
And
so, like I said, it's amazing where I'm at today in comparison to where I was 2 years ago this time. My brain function my cognitive ability was not good. But the thing is I was literally in my brain talking my way through it, but I literally couldn't get any of the words out of my mouth. None of the thoughts were correct because of the chemical imbalance.
I imagine it was extremely frustrating too to have these professionals and these folks in the medical community just kind of dismissing it and saying this will go away after menopause. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to come back, and it wasn't. It was not. And like I said, I educated my psychiatrist. I educated my gynecologist. Attitude magazine is phenomenal. ADD mag. Yeah. Attitude mag. So when you
go ahead.
No, so the person from Westlake, you don't have to mention their name, but when you found them and you sort of connected with them, did they finally sort of validate and?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to seek out somebody who was knowledgeable about ADHD in adults.
Sure.
And more specifically with women.
Yeah.
Because it is so new. I mean, most of the research is less than 5 years old. Most of it is not being done in the States. Some is being done in New York, but Australia is doing a lot.
Particularly with older women going through menopause and the correlations to ADHD within the brain.
And dementia now.
Yes.
So they're making that correlation. So see what happens is when the brain doesn't utilize the acetylcholine that's there, when it breaks down to metabolize, it breaks down into a tau protein, which turns into the plaque, which sits on the brain.
You're so talking nurse language to me right now. I don't understand it, but I can appreciate it.
Yeah. So they're just now, so because I was so young in menopause and because my ADHD was so bad, the likelihood of me having dementia is astronomical. I will never go off the dementia medication because so it's preventative.
I gotcha. Yeah. 100%. So medication now is because it's retaining what you have.
It's the mode of action.
Yeah.
The mode of action for the medication is it allows my brain to utilize the radical acetylcholine.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again, I'm allowed to, it allows me to create that working memory, and I'm pulling vocabulary words out of places I could, I lost a lot of that capability, and when I was in marketing and advertising, I mean, I used to work with businesses. I did the Business Journal for 6 years, and I worked with 15 chambers of commerce in 5 counties, and so I was always talking business. Yeah. I was always doing, and so for me to then hit perimenopause in my mid-30s, and I really started having some cognitive, now, when I look back, I see where that cognitive function started to diminish.
So would you say that it sort of regressed slowly? It wasn't like overnight, but you just sort of slowly are forgetting things, but you're just kind of copying it off to, it's just this or that. But
not only was I forgetting things, but I was more on edge. I was, my social awkwardness was increased tenfold. Yeah. I mean, just, there's so many things. I mean, I was still out in public, but things started to become a challenge for me. And I didn't know why. And I guess I just chalked it up to having a lot on my plate.
Yeah.
And
which you did.
I did.
Too. But I think it's worthwhile for people to pay attention to their body, to the way they're thinking. Go check in with a therapist once a year.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know why we preach, go to your medical doctor every 6 months or your dentist every 6 months, but we don't with our
therapist.
Yeah.
100%. And I was talking to a counselor or a spiritual counselor early on, my mid-30s, dealing with some childhood issues and whatnot. And I thought a lot of that was, mommy issues. I thought a lot of my issue, and some of it was, but it turned out that there was much, much more there that I didn't realize was, I had to, like I said, I didn't know I didn't love myself. Codependency. So through all of that, all the therapy, then we worked on all of that. And like I said, for me to have the brain function that I do now, is amazing. Yeah. And I also use essential oils. I exercise on a regular basis. I don't drink. I can't say don't. I on occasion.
You socially might.
I might. I'm not going to say no, but it better be like a nice whiskey or bourbon.
Oh, my favorite.
Or tequila. Yeah. A nice wine. Maybe an IPA, but other than that,
Buffalo Trace.
But other than that, you know what? I drink it because I enjoy it now. Whereas before, I drank because I was running away from all the unprocessed emotions that I had and all the shame and guilt that I had for just selling myself short. But again, I didn't know what I didn't know, which that I had ADHD.
Yeah, and it's that searching part. I think that's, I think it's important for everyone to take a good deep dive into where you're at in your life. And they say you should do that every 7 years. I don't know what the magic thing is with 7, but it definitely wouldn't hurt.
Took me 46.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah. And like, I'm 39. I almost forgot. But like the idea that for me to imagine what 49 for me is going to be like is impossible. It's just impossible to think about that. So I can only imagine or hope that at 49, you can't imagine what 59 is going to look like. You know what I mean? Like,
I can imagine what 59 is going to look like.
You can or you can't?
Oh, I can.
Really?
Yeah, I can. It looks amazing.
Well, that's, I appreciate the optimism. That's a good thing. It's just,
It looks amazing.
yeah. Well, as soon as you kind of figure yourself out, yeah, I bet that's got to be a huge part of it.
I did. I've found my purpose. I've discovered my purpose.
There you go.
And I'm running with it. And God is opening doors I never thought would open, and all I had to do was believe in myself, and it's all happening.
Yeah.
And it's really just absolutely amazing.
I just think confidence is the best thing. It really is, So,
and most of my life, I was confident. I was confident most of my life. I was, but it was down deep. Like there was something lacking, and I didn't know what it was. And so, now embracing all of me, embracing, my social awkwardness, my too muchness, I'm just allowed to be me. And I never knew that I was just allowed to be me. And now it's a matter of figuring out how to control those emotions.
Sure.
And it's how to figure out, like, honestly, the international podcast that I did, I was so nervous. I was talking a million miles a minute.
Yeah, you got to slow down.
I was talking a million miles a minute, but it was funny. It was good.
Yeah.
But it's you don't hear it until you hear it, and I heard myself.
Yes.
And I was like, oh.
It definitely helps to practice once, or to like record yourself and then to be able to go back. And, I just want to go back to the confidence thing for a second, because you reminded me too that, so confidence is broken down into two parts, really. There's self-esteem and then self-worth. Would you say that you had a lot of self-esteem, meaning that comparing yourself to other people, you were of par, or that you could feel good about yourself?
Sure.
Yeah, right. But the part I bet that wasn't there was the self-worth part, which is that's how you feel about yourself. Yep. That's that inner. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That inner dialogue. And my yoga teacher, God bless her, she goes, tell that itty bitty shitty committee to shut
Yeah, no, you can say it on here. That's true. Say that again, because that was cute.
Tell the itty bitty shitty committee to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, man.
And I'm like, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, there. She gave those ruminating thoughts in my head a name. And the thing is that I discovered I'm my heart. I discovered that I'm in control of my brain. So my brain is super intelligent. However, the chemical imbalance doesn't allow me to get all of that out the right way sometimes, which is crazy to think about. So when people talk to other people who sometimes are a little off, well, you know what? Again, that's like my empathy and, compassion. And I just, for me, and I'm here because I want to help. I want to help other people who are struggling. And when doctors tell them that they don't know, or confidence. I mean, there's some women out there struggling right now in probably their jobs, going through menopause, because all I can tell you is listen to ADHD for Badass Women.
No, I mean, I'm going to give it.
There were so many struggling women that just their stories related, and all of a sudden, when I was super good at what I was doing, became a challenge. And I kept chalking it up to, having too much on my plate. But then once 2021 hit, I didn't have those things on my plate anymore. My kids were grown.
Right. Plus, you all were locked up, I think, during COVID, right? This was
2020, kind of,
during that time of. Did you notice when you had this revelation, if we'll call it that, that the people around you, when you spoke to them about what you've realized and getting on the medication, getting the therapy, did your social network notice a difference? And were they like, oh yeah, this is, I'm just curious.
My journey has not been real receptive to people who I was close to, because because I stopped drinking, because I changed my lifestyle, because I decided to start taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Because I started deep diving, and some of my family doesn't want to. So they didn't accept or don't accept or where I'm at.
Okay.
And which is okay.
Yeah. I was just asking.
I had to do it for myself.
Oh, absolutely. And to, like I'm always trying to remind my own, clients and people that you can only fit so many within your social network. And sometimes you have to take people out to put people in, or take them out to have room for hopefully new ones to come in. So
and that's what's happened. I mean, the right people to get me where I'm going. I mean, have gravitated to me, and it's again where I'm at in doing the work that I've done. I'm so thankful for menopause and am empowering my brain. I mean, for the first time ever, and connecting my heart with my head, and really making those connections with myself. Yeah. So,
what else would you say is a source of strength from this journey or this experience?
Touching other women.
Yeah.
Touching other women.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something that, I mean, there's lots of things, but men, at least in my group, like we don't get touchy feely or sort of connect on that level. I think that's something that I hope that men can do more of, but I just think it's so powerful, and it's relatable. It's building human connections over those experiences. So, what would be like sort of like the last couple of words for the podcast you'd like for older women to know?
Yeah. Like I said, check out ADHD for Smartass Women. It's a great podcast. Again, do the research for yourself, advocate for yourself, because I did, and my psychiatrist is now on ADHD medication. Oh,
the same one that didn't believe you at first, or is this a different?
No, she believed me. Mm-hmm. She just she was open to the idea.
Okay.
Even though I'd already been diagnosed. Mm-hmm. And so I brought the diagnosis to her because she had to write the script.
Right. And she sort of did a deep dive on herself.
And she did the deep dive based on the conversations that, kind of like what we're having now. She's like, oh my gosh. She's like, because society and the textbooks, they all teach you ADHD is something that it's really not. It's something totally different.
Oh, absolutely. And there's, the whole typical, can't sit in your seat, wild boy is the narrative, and it's not true.
No, for women, it comes out in sitting in a corner and being, or being inattentive. So I'm combined type. So I'm hyperactive in certain settings and inattentive in others, and so I'm easily distractible. But but I love it, and so I'm learning to balance it all out. But the emotional aspect of ADHD, I had rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD, and they say, or they're finding that is probably one of the number one aspects of ADHD is the emotional regulation aspect that they took out of the DSM back in the 60s.
Yeah, that's interesting because
because they didn't understand emotions. It's the only reason they took it out.
Yeah.
They didn't understand them.
Yeah, because you're definitely that's interesting.
It's not.
It really is, because the emotional part too. Like I don't have any clinical sort of support to say this in this way, but folks with ADHD, I find them to be hypersensitive.
Yes.
Right. But not, overly emotional. That's not what I'm talking about when I say hypersensitive to feelings. It's that you can feel someone.
Feel everyone.
Yeah. You feel, you feel people, and it really impacts you.
It does. And that's part of the intuition. So aligning with myself specifically, just my intuition, my gut, just everything. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I started trusting myself because your body reacts especially we're sensitive people with ADHD. We react more. Now, what I mean by the emotional aspect of, so with women, that's more so with that emotional aspect because we lose the serotonin regulation. And so, I had no more emotion. I was crying at everything.
Okay.
I mean, you notice with women and their hormone.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, absolutely.
We get.
Yeah, a really emotional commercial on TV, and I come in and she's bawling, and I'm like, "What the heck happened?" And she's like, "I don't know," and I'm like, "Well, can I do anything for you?" She's, no. Like, oh, God.
I don't know where it came from.
Yeah,
we have no idea where it came, but that's the emotional regulation.
Yeah.
But it turns out, like I said, then ADHD, as it gets more severe, because menopause is sitting in. Yeah. Then I lost all that emotional regulation. And so the rejection sensitivity dysphoria, I thought everybody was talking about me. I thought, and they might have been, who knows? But I physically I would tighten up. I would,
you would probably start getting those racing thoughts and losing sleep. And
100%.
The sense of self-worth was just shrinking. And
because again, then I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. And I'm an emotional wreck. 2021 was not nice. But I wouldn't be here if I hadn't gone through that. So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it's super inspiring. Absolutely. I would encourage anyone to go out and get sort of screened for.
Right. And that's the thing, when you look at what you put in your body, the processed foods are so bad for your brain health. Your gut health has so much to do with how your brain functions. When you start looking, the alcohol is killing brain cells. When you start looking at the fact that you're taking care of your brain, it becomes so much easier to do those things, and the exercise.
Oh yeah, I think that's probably been a big thing for me entering into my 40s is realizing, I think, the importance between the body, the mind, and the spirit, and physical health. I'm proud to say I'm starting to take Activia, which is amazing, just for the gut health part of it. So
no, absolutely. No, thank you so much for having me.
Well, hopefully you'll be, would you like to come back on?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Hold each other close, walking in the rain. You were like a picture and I the frame. You were like the air and I a plane.
By the way, at The Wellness Project, we have merchandise. That's right, all mental health awareness themed products. We've got artwork, we've got shirts, we've got hats, we've got candles. We're gonna have one for anxiety awareness, depression awareness, wellness awareness, which is actually out right now. That's right, you can get your own wellness awareness candle. What does it smell like, right? You have to come in and check it out. But if you hit me up on Facebook, or you can email me and I can give you that information. And thank you for your support.
There's a million places I could go, it's so